Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with y'all today. I'm Matthew Gambill. I'm the state representative for House District 15, and I have the privilege and honor to serve here in the Cartersville and Bartow County area. This is my 7th legislative session. I cannot believe time has flown as fast as it has, but I was elected in 2018, and I was sworn in January of 2019. My wife nudged me a minute ago and she said, you need to be brief. So I'm going to try to pack a lot in a short amount of time. I do want to say thank you to Deanne. We have been great friends from the very beginning, and she's done a tremendous job. This is not an easy job, and it requires a lot of work. There's no pay, and there's a lot of back and forth you have to negotiate and work with, but it's an important job. And Deanne and I went through Republican leadership back in 2022. 2022, we graduated from RLG. Thanks to Lewis and Fred for finally persuading me to just do it. It was a great program, and we got a lot out of it. I know many of y'all have been in RLG, but we graduated together, and so we got to spend the year going around meeting with other conservatives around the state and talking about the values that we care so much about. So Deanne, thank you. I appreciate you more than you ever know. My wife, Danae, I mentioned her a minute ago. I couldn't do anything that I do without Danae. She is just a huge support for everything that I do. I couldn't do it with our family and encouragement. Danae was also in the legislature herself. She served one term from 2000 to 2002. It was when the Democrats were in charge in Georgia, and they went through redistricting, and they drew her from an all Republican district into an all-Democrat district, and so unfortunately she lost her re-election at the second term, but she was 22 years old when she was elected, and so she and I both have always had a passion for young people and encouraging them to be conservative, and so that has guided a lot of the efforts that we've been involved with for a very long time. And so Danae, I love you and I appreciate all you do to help me. We've got a lot going on at the legislature. We are very close to being done. And y'all know we're a part-time citizen legislature. So I am here in this community all the time. I don't have to leave and come back. So I'm here more than I'm not. And we have to cram in that work into those 40 days that are spread out over those 4 months that we meet from January until April. And if we don't get it done during that time, in the case of this year, it carries over to next year because we're in the first year of a 2-year term. But we're on the home stretch. We have 8 days left before we finish on April the 4th. We have gotten a lot of very good things done. We've got a lot of very good things that are still floating in the balance. Ed will probably share in depth about that in a minute when he comes up to talk about a few things. But I want to mention an initiative that I started back in the fall. In September, a good friend of mine, Johnny Chastain from Blue Ridge, Fannin County, we met up at Pools Barbecue in Ellijay, and we launched kind of a Doge effort at that time. We called it the Gambill Chastain Initiative. And so if you go onto my website, votegambill.com, I have a link on there where you can report wasteful state government spending. Now listen, we all know the wasteful government spending at the federal level. It's obvious. We can see that, and thank goodness they are finally tackling that and doing something about it. Yes, praise God. But for state government spending, it is incumbent upon us at all times. Even with the fact that we pass a balanced budget in Georgia, we don't deficit spend, we have a AAA bond rating, we have a healthy state surplus, we're providing tax cuts that I'm going to talk more about in a minute. Even in the middle of all that, it is still incumbent upon us at all times as elected officials to be looking for ways to cut spending and to find efficiencies in government, whether that's at the federal, the state, or the local level. And so that's a big part of what this is about, is to try to identify areas where we can find efficiencies. So you can submit a report anonymously, or you can put your name on it. But Johnny and I are collecting all of that, and we're using that to work with the members of appropriations in the legislature to implement some of the things that we're finding from folks that are submitting reports. So I want to encourage you to do that on my website. We also have the red tape rollback that the Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, has proposed. And it's kind of similar. It requires state agencies to perform performance audit reviews on a more regular basis. It also allows small business analysis to look at the laws that we pass and how that impacts small business. so that we can be mindful of the fact that government in many ways gets in the way of things that we need to do, and we don't want that to happen. So I want to commend the Lieutenant Governor for leading the charge on our red tape rollback. And then the last effort that I'll talk to y'all about what's going on at the state legislature related to fiscal responsibility is in the House. Our Speaker has charged the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight Committee that I serve on, and Mitchell and I both are on it, and he has charged us with looking at legislation and finding ways that we can find efficiencies in state government. So the red tape rollback came to our committee last week. We were able to vote on that bill, pass it out, and so that's now in the Rules Committee in the House, and we hope to get that passed very soon. So I want to encourage y'all. I had some people say, well, why are y'all just now getting around to doing this? Well, I'm like, okay, we're doing it, but we're doing it, y'all. And so I think it's important that we are tackling this, and we're taking it seriously. And thank goodness for the support in Washington with the president, which inspired another resolution that I filed to support DOGE, President Trump and Elon Musk on their efforts. I haven't dropped it yet because I'm going around trying to get as many members of our Republican caucus in the House to sign on to that before I file that. At the local level, y'all know that both of our school boards opted out of House Bill 581, which would have helped us all deal with the erratic home assessment value increases. It wouldn't have necessarily cut taxes on property tax on homesteads, but it would have stopped this, hey, I've got a 30% jump from last year to this year. And it would have tied that to CPI and put a maximum that they could go up in any one year on your homestead at 3 to 4%. And again, it would have had to been justified with a consumer price index increase. They were given a provision to opt out. They both opted out, and we have Senate Bill 77 and Senate Bill 83 that both deal with the city of Cartersville and Bartow County school systems that will require us to vote again.
Or against that. Stunning. If you want to see a contrast, you want to see an attack, not just in our country's principles, but an attack on common sense, look at the politics of our day-to-day. And I appreciate our legislators are not just voting for this, they're leading on it. We just voted this week to something that the House passed on several weeks ago, just passed it out of the Senate this week. We completely eliminated once and for all income tax on the retirement income of our veterans.
Yeah.
Forever.
Right.
And that's going to get around, that'll be known, doesn't affect everybody, but the folks it does affect really matter, and that they deserve that tax relief.
Yeah.
I will tell you also, we're focused on things that you're not hearing about in the press because we're trying to be too disciplined to just be talking about it. But we're working to lay structural things in place that change our state and our nation for years and years to come. Our state of Georgia, and I can't say much about this, but raise your hand if you heard some talk the last couple of years, particularly coming out of Florida, about these advanced placement courses, AP US history courses that are being twisted by the College Board to kind of distort what American history looks like. These AP African American Studies courses that are essentially, it's advanced placement, diversity, equity, inclusion courses that's sort of masquerading as African history. We're putting things in place today. We're not going to come out and talk about it fully until all the other states are hand in hand with us. But there's an effort today that Georgia's a part of, supported by your legislators, to take this monopoly that the College Board has on teaching the top 25% of our kids in our nation, determining what they learn through our AP classes and having other alternatives for kids to get college equivalency testing. What's interesting, I was talking to a leader who understands this. There is one standard. You look at the AP US history course that our kids have. And again, thankfully, we've got good school leaders who contextualize this and teach the right things and teach real history because they're great school leaders. But the College Board who drives this has an agenda, and what they put into their standards, the standards that kids have to be tested on. In AP US history, there's an example. I was talking to a person who's not even a Christian. He's a very, very strong advocate of American principles, a Jewish gentleman from New York who's just as upset about this as you and I might be. He said, you know what, Ed? Do you know what the AP US history standards the College Board pushes? The advanced placement US history standards require students to learn one thing, and only one thing that they have to learn about the impact of Christianity in American life. There's one thing that has to be learned. They may learn others, but there's one thing they have to know. You know what that standard is?